to the Sounds of Stadia podcast, episode 55, the longest running Stadia gaming podcast this side of the globe, in Europe that is. You're joining myself, one of your hosts, Chris, alongside the techie teacher himself, Mr. Tom.
What's up, guys? Been playing loads of Elder Scrolls recently. Still got loads to talk about.
And below him, the man of many pixels in his slightly faded purple cube this week, because it's probably sunny outside his window, Mr. Richie.
Yeah, you know what? It's not actually sunny. For some reason, this room just gets all of the light from the world and just goes into the room. What
you need is a solar panel right over that window.
Right next to you, yeah.
What I need is blackout curtains.
That'll do. Blackout. Oh, God rest.
Blackout solar panel curtains.
Yeah, they do such good work, those blackout curtains. I miss being a teenager and having blackout curtains, being an adult and living in a home that is shared by more than just myself. I don't know if that's saying necessarily. And I have these lovely cream things, which is why I always look quietly overshadowed, oversaturated with light. Right now. But anyway, you're not here to discuss lighting conditions and blinds. I don't think there probably is a podcast for that.
We could start one.
I'm sure there is. I'm sure there's a podcast
Richie,
for everything.
Let's not. Let's just stay true to a Stadia podcast, because if you are unfamiliar with the channel, we're the Sounds of Stadia podcast. We bring you a weekly talk show. Oh my god, radio show, podcast. God, I'm off on one today. We bring you a weekly show where we round up all the gaming and Stadia news from the world and bring it to you in an hour or so condensed form, where you get my opinions, Tom's opinions, and Richie's condensed down for your listening pleasure. We've got a good show this week. We're going to be talking about Baldur's Gate leaving early at Baldur's Gate 3. Get that numeric value on there. In early access, available to Stadia and PC players. We've got some Watchdogs Legion update, as the imminent arrival in the coming weeks is due. We've got some updates on Stadia and some shaking going on in the crowd with other rivals we're going to talk about as well. And as always, we've got a few ESRB leaks coming to your way. But before we get into all that, let's have a look at the housekeeping this week. We had myself jump into some more Monster Boy action, and the game's actually timed itself quite well for Halloween now. The last 2 episodes in October have been spooky themed. So last week I was in Deadwood Graveyard. This week I've delved into the Haunted Manor. And I still have a very love-hate relationship, Tom.
Yeah, it's very obvious as well when you're watching it back too.
This week's episode I recorded late at night, which I don't know if that's a mistake when I'm tired and I've had work all day and trying to muster the energy to die 50,000 times. It can be quite arduous, but yeah.
Part of the highlight of the week for me is opening up my friends list and seeing Chris is currently playing Monster Boy in the Cursed Kingdom, because I know what's happening.
Think how good it's going to feel though when you finally roll credits.
I know it must be near the end by now. I'm feeling that end game.
He's got a while to go.
Have I got a while to go? Great.
Yeah, you're getting there. You are getting there.
I did the second race with that mouse guy this week, Tom.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, just watch it. Go check it out.
Definitely go check it out.
Alongside that, we had the post show last week where we discussed the up-and-coming Stadia Connect. We'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas of what you'd like to see and when you think the Stadia Connect is, because as we now tick into the second week of October, it's getting close. And I saw some people throwing around on Twitter, maybe we won't see anything from Stadia. And it did make me pause for a moment and go, you know what? I hadn't even thought about them literally doing jack all. And it just being a silent ship in the night just passes by, and PS5 comes out, Xbox Series X comes out, and we head into Christmas with nothing other than like an updated advert on Twitter and YouTube. It was like, oh, that could be a reality. Harsh reality.
You never know.
You never know.
Anything
you
is
guys
possible.
think there's a chance to do nothing?
Yep.
Is that yes, nothing, or yes, doing something?
Yes, I think there's a chance of doing nothing. I just don't really understand what their marketing plan is for Stadia. It just seems to be a bit scattergun, to be honest. The one thing we do know for certain is they don't like putting release dates on things.
Oh yes, that's a subject I'm sure we'll get into at some point throughout the show. And final 2 points from me. We did Human Fall Flat this Thursday. We had an absolute amazing stream with the community. Remember, we do have community streams we do every week. We try and rotate the games. We try and focus on what's popular, what's up and coming. This week, like I said, we looked at Human Fall Flat. We were joined by 8 other community members, I think. We had quite a good roster going at one point, solving those puzzles with the Play-Doh people, where all 3 of us jumped in and played some wacky games in Human Fall Flat, and it was so funny. And I think, Tom, you said you were working on a little section to clip
Yeah,
out.
there are some absolutely just comical moments in that stream. If you didn't check it out, make sure you jump back into it. You know, it is a few hours long. Dig through it. You'll find some parts, because that was honestly some of the most fun I've had with the community in quite some time.
Yeah.
It was a real blast, that was.
It was a great laugh. And thank you for everyone again who stopped by. So just swing by to the channel on a Thursday and you will find us playing something, usually about 8 p.m. UK time, well into the late hours of the night. And the way you'll be kept in the loop of that is by liking the video and subscribing down below, because if you are here and you're new to the channel, we bring you a lot of content aside from the podcast: live streams, let's plays, games, shenanigans, and other things, like Tom promoting his lovely new t-shirt, which is it a Nordic guy? What's the guy called? Is it Eivor? They've said, from Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is
Eivor,
also on our doorstep. So very nice. And I thought you got that from the official website, but it turns out it's our
my local supermarket.
Hey, they have some pretty good swag in there.
Do you know what? I nearly picked up a Crash Bandicoot one as well, actually.
Was that the Champion?
Yeah. It's the one with the Crash. I don't know if it's it's the brand on the pocket, and then it's just got Crash Bandicoot huge on the back there. But yeah, we are less than a month away now. Less than a month away.
It's heating up. I can already feel the gaming industry heating up. Like, I've been playing Crash Bandicoot, and it's almost, I'm actually getting Monster Boy vibes from it, because it is so difficult. Like, the time trials.
Isn't it actually like so much more difficult than the older games as well?
I honestly thought it would be watered down, with it being like a successor and it's modern, and it would be more accessible for maybe people to complete. And I was thinking to myself, I might get the platinum for this. And no, after 3 levels of only getting like 2 of the gems, no, I'm just going to enjoy it for what it is, and that is a hard-ass game.
I change your mind when you get to the end, because by then you'll be
No, I've already decided.
Even just the mechanics of the new masks and things like that have just added such a level of difficulty to it. But like, they've ramped up everything. So like, the number of boxes in the levels, the fact that you've got to collect fruit as well to get the gems. It's just, there's so many things. And to complete the levels in like a certain amount of deaths as well. And it's just like, you ain't doing that. That's not happening.
It's so big.
And that's the easy stuff.
Yeah, it's really, really enjoyable, and it is giving me Monster Boy vibes, but there have been a good few points like Monster Boy where I've had to pause and just go, I'm not going to 100% this game. There is no feasible way. In my lifetime, I don't think I have the capacity to commit that much hours to essentially become a speedrunner for that game. Like, that's what it requires. But it's an absolute blast, and I'm looking forward to it. But again, what it did make me realise is we are so deep into the shit show of a year that is 2020 right now, but we are on the cusp of the dam of games being broken that is the holiday season, and it's a huge time for Stadia specifically, because there's big titles coming day and date. Now, I do want to just throw a little bit of pill in the mix there, because I had some beef on Twitter this week. Don't know why I ate that. I do have some issues with myself, and I know Richie, you're with me, and a lot of people out there are as well. And I know we were told it was coming winter, but FIFA launched this week, and I was looking forward to playing it. And Stadia is my 100% preferred platform for this game. It's annualized. I want to take it on the go. I want to play it on my mobile. I want to do career mode on the move. I don't want to have to faff around with this copying your save file over to next gen, because they've said on PlayStation, Xbox, I believe, if you start a career mode on PS4 and the current Xbox, it will not continue over. You'll get a free upgrade, but the game save for career mode and a couple of other modes won't continue over. I think your FUT seasons and stuff are safe, but certain aspects aren't. So that, again, tells me, well, why would I want it on my PlayStation 4 to then just have to start the whole thing in several months' time or weeks' time? I wanted this on Stadia, and I know we were told it was winter, just like we were told Jedi Fallen Order was fall. And I don't know, I just thought they were going to surprise us. There was going to be something big. But then that did lead me to think that this is a game based on football seasons. How far into the current season do we have to go where the game just becomes redundant, because no one wants to pick up a season ticket halfway through a campaign? Like, I don't want to pick up this game in January and February when it's been out for 6 months, because the next game will be on the horizon in September. Absolutely. So it's like,
I always find myself with football, or soccer if you prefer, I'm most interested at the start and end of the season. That's when I want to play. I want to play immediately when things like, there's lots of news going on with like the transfer window's just closed. they're the sort of stuff that gets you interested, and then the season kind of just plods on in the background.
Yeah, I think most people are probably thinking they want to jump in and replicate Villa's 7-2 victory over Liverpool, don't they, really?
Yeah. Throwing shade. And you're not even...
Oh, I know we've got some Liverpool fans in the community, but as a Birmingham boy at heart, I've got to represent Villa right there. But you are right.
Yeah.
The thing it comes back to is how many times have we said over the course of the last year that FIFA is a perfect home. Stadia is a perfect home for FIFA because it's one of them sort of casual games that there's a subsection of gamers who all they play is FIFA. They don't care about insane like next generation graphics or anything. They just want a solid FIFA game every year.
Well, case in point with that, I at the end of every week, like on a Friday when I'm at school, I ask the kids in my form, like, what are you going to do this weekend? You doing anything interesting? And pretty much like 90% of the lads in my form group were like, FIFA, mate. Like, FIFA's out. Like, I'm going to be playing FIFA. And it's just that. It's that right there that to me just identifies straight away that this is a title that you need to have, and you need to have it day and date. You can't afford to faff around and wait for it.
Yeah, and I think it just lends the way, because the sport in general, I think sports lend itself very well to whenever you have a free bit of time, you can just bash out one game very, very quickly. I mentioned pre-show that I do that with Avengers right now, where I'm jumping in with every spare hour I have and just chipping away at like a daily mission or a daily challenge, and then I'm bound to put up XP. FIFA is that perfectly. You have a spare 20 minutes. I'll just do a quick game in career mode. I'll just jump in and do a quick online game with friends. And I know, I want to really, really drive home that I know they said winter, but now it's here, and I can see everybody else, all my friends playing it elsewhere. It's a sport. I'm currently being left out of that sport. I'm sat on the bench waiting to be called up by the manager or the coach or the teacher to say, go on, Chris, you've got your chance. Get out there and enjoy the beautiful game for what it is. And I'm sat here with Stadia going, should I get it on PlayStation? Should I just bite the bullet and jump in with my other friends on the other platform? And if so, that's £60 lost. And I know we're getting Valhalla, I know we're getting Watchdogs, but it like the difference, surely it's going to be by the end of the year. I know they said winter. Yeah. Do you think 2021? Are they going to push that?
The problem I have with winter is roughly about 3 months. It's about, other than that, it's about 3 months long in most of the world, or about 9 months in England. But it's also like, I want a bit more. It's just too big of a... You say something like it's coming in winter the previous year. It's coming winter 2020. And you go, okay, I have a rough idea when it's coming. And then close at the time, you give the actual date.
Yeah.
We're past the release date now.
Yeah.
And we still don't know when it's coming.
Yeah, I think is what irked me the most this week. Yeah. It's not that we haven't been told, it's not that it's not out on Stadia, it's I now don't know how long I have to wait to play it. And I think this is the issue we're potentially going to have with Cyberpunk, and I think, Tom, you've alluded to it a couple of times. It's all well and good saying I want to play it on Stadia and it's my preferred place of play, for third-party things especially, but when that day comes on the 19th, Stadia's second birthday, remember, everybody is playing it on Xbox and PlayStation and PC. How long do you hold out for before you think, what, I just want in on this conversation, I want to play this exciting, crazy game right now, and I can because I have the other platforms. That's the worst thing. I have my PlayStation sat mere meters away from me, which I could boot up, buy digitally. Yes, I'd have to wait for a pain in the ass download to play the game, but I guarantee you, by the end of the day, I'll be playing it. With Stadia, I don't know if it's next week, next month, next year.
Let's be real, right? The download that's going to take to actually get the game and get it installed onto your PlayStation is probably still going to be quicker than the release date for Cyberpunk. So it sort of like nullifies the argument immediately there.
Well, here's the thing with FIFA. FIFA's often bundled in with consoles. I actually have FIFA 19, and the only reason I have that game is because my dad got a PS4 with his internet package, and it came bundled in with FIFA, and he has no interest in the game at all, so I took it.
I hope you told him. It's just like, Dad won't miss this. He's thinking, I had a game around here. I might have checked it.
That's the only reason I have FIFA 19, and it's. Yeah. But at what point? Because I will buy a PS5 at some point. At what point do I have a bit of money in the bank? Do I walk past the store and see here's a PS5 bundled in with FIFA, and go, you know what? I want a PS5 and I want FIFA.
Yeah, and it's
I'd rather have it in Stadia though.
Yeah, same. I think that's the most frustrating thing. That I it's not like I'm going, oh well, I would get it on PlayStation anyway. I might get it on FIFA if it's cheaper, or they give me another reason. I genuinely want this game on Stadia for many, many reasons, and
he does.
I'm just sat waiting.
It's the same argument we've had for practically everything. Just here's another game that we've been disappointed with release dates.
Communication is key in both life, relationships, and game releases. We need that roadmap, and there's some more stuff later on where we're going to be talking about roadmaps because some games actually came out, but we can't get into all that until Tom casts his spell.
Oh, really?
It's Halloween, the spell.
Woo! The spooky, super sexy special Stadia story segment, aka the news. The news again is brought to you by StadiaSource.com, the #1 source for your Stadia news and reviews. Shout out to the guys at
Stadia. You put a bit
Source.
of flair on the end there, Chris. The news.
Like pizza.
Pizza.
And release dates. If only. But yes, thank you to our partnership friends over at Stadia Source for supplying us with the news. Don't forget to head over there, like their videos and follow their page to be kept in with the loop of all your Stadia news and things like FIFA release dates. That it'll guarantee it will drop there shortly after EA because they'll pick up on that and jump in and play. Can you tell I'm bitter about this one still?
Maybe just a little.
Just a little
tad.
Yeah.
Just a tad.
A little bit of salt on top of that wound there. But first things first, gentlemen. We've been playing some games this week. As we mentioned, we've done Human Fall Flat. I've been playing Monster Boy, Crash Bandicoot, Star Wars Squadrons, not FIFA, and a couple of other things. But you two had the luxury... thankfully, thanks to Stadia, actually, let's give them a pat on the back. Thanks to Stadia, you guys got to jump in and check out Baldur's Gate 3 from Larian Studios in early access, alongside the PC people who, quick caveat to all this as well, they had to wait for a 150 gig download to get started with this. You gentlemen just hit click to play, and boom, you're in there spending probably far too many hours in your character creation. But Richie, you did a first look for our channel. It's available over on youtube.com/Sounds of Stadia. Go check that out. We'll swing over to you first. Give me your first takes on all things Baldur's Gate early access.
So on my first look, one thing I did do is I did gloss completely over character creation because literally it's an hour-long video I'm recording. I could spend an hour there anyway. So I kind of just went through it and got into the game. The game is definitely in early access, put it that way. Which is fine, but there is sort of features that I'm missing, like they don't have the full set of character classes or races. It plays fine. It does feel to me like there is something missing, and because I don't have that full set of options when I'm making my character, I don't know. I don't really want to play too much into the story at the moment. At this point, I know it's early access. I was kind of wanted to just play around with the different classes, try and get a gauge of how they played, but I'm missing a lot of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tom, how about yourself?
Yeah, I had a chance to sit down. I played the day it released. I think I had an hour and a half to spend on it, of which the majority of that was spent in character creation, naturally. The character creation is stunning, though. Like, everything that they've done in terms of the character models and so on is all done with motion capture, facial recognition, and facial capture. So you really get a very sort of like real life experience out of all of the models, and the models are incredibly beautiful as well. Like, I was stunned when I opened up character creation and just saw like the array of different designs, the colors, everything you can go with. And that's not the full package. That's just what we've got for early access. The amount of stuff that they're going to add down the line as well is in my opinion, it's well worth the price point to begin with. Like, just to clarify, for early access, it's still £50, $49.99 British pounds. But as part of that, you get the game in its current state, any future updates, and obviously you also get the game when it's fully released as well. In terms of the story, you get Act 1 of 3, so you actually get a third of the story currently, and you also get access to multiplayer as well, which you can jump in with your friends, get them to join your party and experience the whole story together, controlling your character. I love it. I think it's really, really good. A ton of fun.
I have something to bring up on the multiplayer. My brother was playing with one of his friends in multiplayer, or at least trying to. My brother's got it on PC. His friend Peter has it on Stadia, and they weren't talking very well. I think because of different versions, he said.
Okay.
I suspect that's possibly because Larian have, to my knowledge so far, launched at least 2 hotfix patches. So there could be just on different variants, and it could be literally just because of the patching cycle at the moment.
Yeah, they have said in any of their tweets, and a massive shout out to Larian Studios as well, who've been really, really vocal from day one with this. And I'll come on to another point with social in just a second. But they are running patches, they're running hotfixes as it goes along as well, like Richie said. The hotfixes are going out immediately to Steam, of which GOG and Stadia are going to follow up as soon as it is physically possible for them to do so. That's just because they've said on Twitter it takes a little bit longer to roll it out on those 2 platforms, but they are coming. So there is going to be that little bit of like a desyncing issue, I suppose, between Stadia and Steam and GOG, for example. But on top of that, I wanted to talk very quickly as well, if you don't mind, gents. Google Stadia, their social media team, do you feel like there's been a bit of a change with them recently? Because I feel like their social media team has stepped it up massively. Like, particularly with the launch of Baldur's Gate 3, they have been so vocal, in my opinion. Because, for an example, we know a lot of people on the day Baldur's Gate 3, it was 150 gig download, like you said before, Chris. Like a massive download. That's not small. That's a huge game, that is. A lot of people immediately jumped onto Twitch, jumped onto YouTube and so on. Like, they want to stream this game as soon as it's out. Get on it as quickly as possible.
But it's got crowd choice.
It's got crowd choice, exactly. You want to get involved in it. Yeah. And I've seen so many people out there talking about how they were disheartened with the fact that it took so long to download, to install. It even crashed Steam, like Steam's store at one point. Yeah. They physically couldn't get the game out quick enough because of how many people were trying to purchase it. But we know there've been some people out there in the wider gaming community who recognize that actually you could access this game instantly on Stadia. There's a chap who is quite a large following, actually. He's quite dedicated to Baldur's Gate and these sorts of like D&D style titles. Wolfheart FPS as well, who he sat for a solid 45 minutes or so waiting for the game to download and to get access to it. And then he decided on his stream, I can access this on Stadia like now. And as a result of that, he's now bought into the Stadia ecosystem. He's recognized that Stadia is actually decent and it's actually a viable option. And he said he's going to be bringing more Stadia streams in future. So like, this is where we started to see some of the evidence of this is actually working. And I think like the Stadia marketing team is starting to capitalize on that a little bit. Feels like the narrative's changed slightly.
I think it's probably because it's not going up against other consoles. It's not going against PlayStation or Microsoft. So it has a very good opportunity to plant its flag on this one. Because I think with PC gaming, there is some tribalism into PC, but I think it's not like you don't feel like bound to one console. Like you buy a new PC from a different manufacturer and all your games are still there. If you cast your mind all the way back to episode 1, one of the things I was excited about Stadia for was the ability to play PC gaming without having to spend over £1,000 on a decent gaming rig. This is one of these examples. You can play this game. 150 gig download it's big. But I don't know whether it's considered big for PC gaming because I currently have 3 terabytes of storage on my PC. Either directly embedded into it or attached externally. But it's a lot. It's going to take a long time to download. But if you're someone who's been into the Baldur's Gate franchise from back in, was it either the 90s or early 2000s when it first came out? So you're probably in your 30s, like we are, and then you go, oh, new Baldur's Gate, I want to play that. I don't want to buy a new gaming PC because I only want to play Baldur's Gate. Yeah. This is where Stadia can win. This is where it can get you.
Yeah, I think this has been a great advertisement for Stadia. And I think that example you give there, Tom, is the really they need to jump on that as a marketing push and say, look, if you want to play this game, the future of next-gen gaming, for me, it's not going to be about graphic fidelity. There's a very small amount of people who are really that interested, I think, in the top 4K, 8K resolutions, and frame rate has never been something that I've been very particular on. I know there are people out there who are, but you've got to remember the vast majority of people who play games just want to play the game. And I think the biggest thing next gen is looking at is convenience. We've seen it with the new consoles on the top of the SSD and how quick load times are and how fast textures pop in and frame rate and all that. This generation is going to be about convenience because that's how everyone wants their lives to be now. Just look at the Netflix model and stuff, as we want stuff instantly. Look at Amazon Prime and such like that. Stadia does that already. Like when we've seen about people showcasing the Miles Morales load times and how quick resume works on the Series X. We've had that already with Avengers and such. You can boot up that game and you're into the main screen in like less than a minute easily from your home system. That's a perfect example when it's 150 gigs to download. I think
frame rate's one. How important it is depends on the game. Something like Baldur's Gate, I think you could be perfectly comfortable playing in 30 frames per second because it's turn-based.
Yeah,
however,
it's
something
not a
like
fast-paced game.
Something like, I don't know, Fortnite, it's very high-paced and frenetic. You need the high frame rate to give you... It's not necessarily to give you an advantage, it's so you're not disadvantaged.
Yeah. I totally get the argument with that one.
Yeah.
There's a stark contrast, basically, what Rishi's trying to say is there's a stark contrast between the type of gameplay of a role-playing game, turn-based, and a high-action, high-octane FPS. FPS, every single frame counts. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. But my point was, again, people don't necessarily, in the grand scale, really care about that. I don't think any of our friends, outside of like us three in particular, even really understand how frame rates work. Like, if you put 30 FPS, would that mean anything to a handful of our friends who actively play things like FIFA, Call of Duty? Like, I don't think they'd care or really bother.
It's just another moniker for people to look at and just point their finger and say, oh, yours is less than mine, therefore yours is worse.
It's another stat, isn't it? Like they do with all technology. It's like televisions, 8K, everything's about 8K. It's like the human eye can barely fathom 4K, anything higher fidelity than 4K, yet that's going to be the net. Like, what's after that, 16? And do we just... need those big numbers. I think
phone cameras are the best for that. The megapixel race.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, Nokia had like a 51 megapixel camera way back in early 2000s. Yet we're still pushing iPhones out at 12.
Had a lens made out of like, I don't know, like
crystal,
greaseproof paper or something. Had the worst lens ever. A lot of pixels, none of them any good.
Yeah. So back to Baldur's Gate then. You had Tom. You mentioned it was Act 1 of 3.
Yes.
From what you've played so far, the two of you, do you have maybe like scope for when the next parts are going to drop? Does the game's current build give you any indication to how close we are to the finishing line now with this being released everywhere?
It's tough to say because it depends on how much development they've actually got to do for the environments for different areas too. Because one thing about the Baldur's Gate games is there's a lot of different ways that you can approach gameplay. Take for example, my character I built into getting Mage Hand. I know you did this as well, Richie, as one of your cantrips as part of like your character selection. Mage Hand allows you to grab objects from a distance using almost like if you imagine like a spectral hand.
It's like telekinesis almost, but with a physical hand you can control.
Now, just to give you a sort of idea of the kind of things you can do with Mage Hand, you can grab any sort of loose object within range.
Can you use a banana as a weapon?
Yes, you can use bananas. You can use squirrels as weapons by reaching and throwing them from... Like, this is the kind of thing Baldur's Gate allows you to do. You can use your creativity to such an extent. Now, the mechanics are there. We've seen that because we've got Act 1. But it depends on what they're doing with the environments and the storytelling for Act 2 and 3. Plus, the cutscenes are damn good. So
I'd imagine the story. I'd imagine the storytelling is done. The story, well, at least all the scripting is probably already completed. When I say scripting, I mean scripting for like the voice acting. Probably all the voice acting isn't done because at the moment I think you can only have 4 different voice packs.
Yes,
for your main character.
2 male, 2 female.
Yeah. I'm guessing that's going to expand a lot.
Are they all British?
Yeah.
I feel like a game like this, like mythical fantasy, it's always an English person who's like, "Come on with me on this quest."
I feel like it is British. It's very sort of. I mean, to be honest, most of the character creation I spent doing the voices are the same regardless of race. Actually, it's the same voices no matter what race you pick at the moment.
Well, that's always been Baldur's Gate. They've always had voices separate to races, but they've always had a bigger spectrum of voices. So
yes,
yeah.
If I had to put a date on roughly when I think the title's going to be released or when we might see a big update, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a big update every 3 months. I'm going to say the final finished product may be a year down the line. I think it might be a good...
I've been hearing rumors for about a year, so I'm going to say it's probably about a year. It's hard to know how they're going to approach early access over this next year. I know within a week they've already launched 2 hot fixes, so they are working very quick to patch stuff, which is probably one of the reasons why they want it in early access, so they can work on this stuff.
It's the best. It's the best way of. I think it's the best way of producing a solid title. Crowdsource it, like get it out there and get the community to identify things that a small team essentially couldn't.
Yeah, because we know from Reddit threads and the dark web and everything, it's the internet that finds the most niche faults in things that you could possibly find, you want to look for.
And the more people playtesting a game, it does come with that caveat. You have to be aware when you are buying the game, you are buying an early access game. This game, by definition, is not complete.
Yes.
Yeah. I saw you had a few...
bugs, accept missing features.
I mean, I've already seen enemies disappearing through staircases. I've seen bodies glitching out that I can't loot after I've killed things. You know, these sorts of things happen. Desyncing issues in multiplayer where suddenly you're trying to make a move, but another player is suddenly just like disappearing off the map, even though they're actually controlled by someone. And
the game feels very early access at the moment.
But it's being polished, it's being fixed, and from what I've experienced so far, it's. I think we are on to genuinely a classic is being made at the moment.
Yeah, one of my biggest concerns was basically with it being built on the same engine that Divinity was. Is this just going to be a Divinity game set in the world of Baldur's Gate? And I think I was half right. It's halfway between Divinity and Baldur's Gate, which I think is probably the right positioning for this, because the old Baldur's Gate, as much as I love it, and I do think mechanics kind of still hold up for that turn-based thing. We're talking like 20-year-old mechanics, and then there's things like the D&D rule sets have been upgraded a lot, probably. So, but I think they've positioned that part of it correctly.
So we'll certainly be keeping an eye on Baldur's Gate 3, the follow-up to number 2. Speaking of follow-ups to sequels, we've got another news story in the week. Ubisoft and the Watchdogs Legion train is very much powering on into central London. We got a roadmap update for Watchdogs Legion, dropping this October 29th. So we're mere days away now from this, gentlemen. Like just over 2 weeks. The end of the month as we head into Halloween and the holiday season. They've came out, Ubisoft, and basically showcased a couple of extra add-ons, features that we're going to get. I'll just read through a couple of them on here. So once the game arrives, December 3rd is when we're going to get online mode drop for the game, and it's going to feature things like free open world co-op, where basically you can team up with other people, up to 4 other people in your same world. So they've done this with previous games like Far Cry, where essentially if I was playing, you two could jump in and be characters in my world and interact and such. Similar to like Grand Theft Auto and things work. We can explore the full city of London and participate in side quests together. So I think that bodes quite well for a bit of online co-op.
Jumping on the underground.
Exactly, on the tube.
Head over to Camden Town.
They've added new things as well, like tactical missions and teamwork and stuff's basically going to play a key part in that. Spider-Bot Arena, PvP play mode. So it says here, where up to 4 to 8 players control armed spider bots and compete in high-intensity free-for-all death matches.
Basically, Robot Wars.
Robot Wars, yeah. Go check out Robot Wars.
Basically,
Robot Wars
Robot
game
Wars
would be awesome.
If they get Craig Charles to do like the announcement during the multiplayer, then that would be incredible. I'd love that.
Right.
Get on it, Ubisoft. Get on it.
Get on it.
Even if you've already cast an announcer, get rid of him. Craig Charles.
It's got to be Craig Charles or Dara O'Brien. I'd accept Dara O'Brien as well, but mainly Craig Charles. Aim for Craig Charles.
What you're saying is sack off Stormzy in his live gig in the game and just get Craig Charles in to present Robot Wars.
No, you can keep Stormzy, as long as he's not the presenter of Robot Wars within the game.
Maybe he could be a robot. It could be a giant mechanical Stormzy fights Sir Kill-A-Lot.
That's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Who was there? There was Sir Kill-A-Lot, Sergeant Bash,
Matilda, yeah.
Who's the one with the pincers? That's a froze face and a half. They'll be back, ladies and gentlemen. They'll be back. We just get to enjoy Tom's face ever so briefly. There he is. He's back.
I'm sure Richie can agree with me. We were fine from our end again there.
Yep. Yeah, and I'll say
well,
exactly what I said last week. I'm recording, so it's you too. Richie, your face not so bad. Tom, your face froze on a brilliant. It was worse than that.
It's that awkward moment where when we freeze like that because of the internet issues, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to come back through halfway through a sentence.
You just have to pause. But yeah, so on pause, just like Robot Wars, indefinitely. We'll get back to that. Other content they've mentioned that it comes to additional story content for the single player is going to be dropped. And anyone who purchased the game Season Pass, which comes with the gold edition of Ubisoft titles, obviously still able to purchase separately, is going to come with series favourite Aiden Pierce returns. So you need the Season Pass to play as the protagonist from the first game, which... How far we've came with Watchdogs, by the way, gentlemen. From the first game where you play as a broody guy in Chicago hacking into like traffic lights and cash machines and stuff, to Spider-Bot arena fight in lockdown post-Brexit London with Stormzy rapping on the top of Tower Bridge and stuff shooting off left, right and centre. It's definitely... They're definitely leaning more into the crazy aspect with this title. They're also adding in new DedSec missions, new Game Plus mode, and other characters and abilities and such. So we've seen like you've got the granny, you've got the hacker, you've got the builder and such. I would imagine they're going to play with that a little bit more. So
I feel Ubisoft have a good concept of like the core mechanics of what a Watchdog game should be, but don't exactly fully get where they need to position it in the market yet. It's
such an odd title because I've enjoyed the previous two to completion, and every iteration seems to take it in a new direction that makes me think like they never actually knew what their vision was for this game from day one.
Well, I think they had the vision in day one because it was very he's the game, this is what it is, but I don't think it probably sold as much as they were expecting. But like there is something there, we just need
I think
where do we put it to get the best out of it?
If I remember correctly, the original announcement, it was extremely ambitious for the original Watch Dogs. And when the game came out, that it wasn't well received because of the fact that it was nowhere near the ambitious level that it was marketed at. And they tried to make improvements for that with Watch Dogs 2. To be honest, with Watch Dogs Legion, I've said this before, I just want something that's just crazy and wacky, that's going to fill that Saints Row sort of, the GTA of this generation, because obviously GTA 5 has spanned and will be spanning 3 generations. Like, if I can get something that's sort of like my GTA-esque, Saints Row-esque sort of title now, bit of slapstick, bit of fun, just like dicking around in London kind of stuff, I'm okay with that. And if I can do that with my mates, then yeah, great.
So the two of you, have either of you played Watch Dogs 2?
No.
Right, so that what you've described there, Tom, that GTA-esque type fun, that's what Watch Dogs 2 became, where rather than have like strict rules and such, it was a lot more loose. I think one of my favourite missions from Watch Dogs 2 was based in bright sunny San Francisco, so it was a nice colour palette switch from the first game, and I had to break into essentially what was Google's headquarters, and I had to find something in like their server room, and I used a combination of take down moves from my character, but more importantly I think I went in, hacked all the CCTV cameras, unlocked doors by hacking them via the CCTV cameras. I think I used a drone to get into a certain room to unlock a door to get my protagonist in to steal it. I set things like fire alarms off to take people out of the main hall, and it's all those little hacking elements which make the game like really fun and crazy. The only weird downside to it is you shoot people still. So like the character in the second game was like this happy-go-lucky, he wanted to hack the world and he didn't believe in companies overruling everything, which kind of is the way the world is right now. But then all of a sudden he rocks out a rifle and just shoots people dead in the Google Google headquarters. Really fit his character. Yeah, he was like this happy-go-lucky guy who was into technology and kind of, he was a hacker. He wasn't a straight-up cold-blooded murderer, yet the game kind of lent itself to that. So I'm intrigued.
He's murdering like probably innocent security
guards. Completely. Like, don't get me wrong, you could tase them and stuff, but there was a bevy of weapons and grenades and bombs to use as well. So I'm interested to see how Legion's going to take that, because remember, they're in a country that doesn't have firearms.
Nope. Well,
so how does the chaos like Grand Theft Auto ensue when you can't really have like rifles and Uzis and shotguns freely?
That might be why they decided to set it in London. So it means like. Yeah, so like weapons are just harder to get your hands on. They might still be in there, Or maybe there's different ways you can go. Maybe you can go the bit more terroristy organization with like weapons and stuff, or you could go a bit more the hackery route.
I mean, in the trailer, DedSec are branded as a terrorist-esque organization. They're not hackers. They are seen as like causing public disruption and
they're akin to how Anonymous are dealt with in the modern age, really.
Yeah, that's a good variation on it, Tom.
Yeah.
But we're only 2 weeks away, so I'm sure we'll find out soon enough, right?
Yeah. But it'd be interesting if you could do like a full pacifist playthrough.
I mean, tasers and drones and stuff. But then on the flip side...
Shunt was the name of one of the house robots from Robot Wars. It was the one with the plow. It was the one with the plow and the pickaxe that came over the top of it.
Because you said that, I now have to get a clip of Shunt below us, just because you've randomly had that in. So people, especially the US audience listening, go, "What? Where? Shunt? What was that DLC for Watchdogs?"
Is that British slang? Is he sending out some British curse words there, saying shunt?
I don't know. You can be a bit of a shunt sometimes, Tom. But
I know. Yeah, I can't help myself. Sorry, guys.
But moving on from Watchdogs, like you said, we'll be playing that imminently. We got a couple of updates for Stadia coming out. Mobile data is now outside of the experimental phase. So for those of you who've been delving into the settings and tweaking it so you can play on the go, it's now part of the core Stadia experience. You can just opt in or out of using that, but it is locked to 720p on the limit. So either of you two been using your cellular data to play these games?
Yes. I do it a lot. I do it quite a lot.
I don't really like playing on my phone. I just don't have a way. I haven't got like a Razer Kishi or anything.
I was just about to say, get yourself a Razer Kishi.
Yeah, that would probably solve my problem, but I don't have a way of comfortably playing. I've got like an Ausley mount and I hate it. Yeah. It's just unbalanced and feels awkward to hold and feels like I'm fighting against it. The design of it, I think, is actually terrible because where it grips the phone, it grips onto the volume down button if I want a central, which is just a stupid design for any sort of phone mount.
So you're saying...
so I haven't really had a chance to play my phone too much, apart from like touchscreen controls.
Yeah, this for me is just again another like little tick box exercise of Stadia prepping themselves for the future of cloud gaming, and that is, especially in the UK where unlimited cellular data plans are very much prominent in the market now, and they're quite affordable as well in terms of what you get, like bang for your buck almost. I use it personally all the time. My 4G, 5G in my area is better than my Wi-Fi for the most part. So it's my preference to actually use 4G. And especially now the controller can be played by just hooking it up through USB-C, I'm just straight in there. I don't mind the Ausley Claw too much. I just tend to tilt my head like this and play at an angle for the camera. But I do also use my Samsung tablet, which is also cellular, and Stadia runs beautifully on that now with a nice crystal clear screen. So I think all it does is another tick to push us towards that playing on the fly, play wherever you want to go. And I think as network infrastructures in the UK and other countries get better, this is going to be something you're not going to think twice about. Oh, I don't want to play Avengers on my phone because it's a bit laggy, or I might get frame rate drops, or it might not load up as fast or as clear. As 4G and 5G inevitably get better, as does the opportunity to play these games on the move and in more areas. And this is when people at bus stops, on the train, sat in the waiting room at the doctors, they want to play these games now because they're so accessible, and that's huge for AAA games and Stadia for me.
Well, I've never been big on mobile gaming, but I think that's largely just how my life is organised. Like, I don't have huge amounts of time at work to sit there and play games. I get half an hour for my lunch and like 15 minutes otherwise. And for my lunch break, I largely want to eat some lunch rather than play a game. So stuff like that. I don't commute by train or anything. I drive to work, so I can't really play it there. And so it just doesn't fit.
Drive around.
Can't legally.
Yeah.
Don't drive.
So it's just, so mobile gaming as a whole has never really appealed to me in the slightest because it just doesn't fit in.
If it doesn't mesh with your life, then it makes sense. Essentially, like, I get it.
I think it's cool Stadia being there, and the fact I can, because I have played a bit of Football Manager on my lunch break at work. I wish the touchscreen controls were wearing like an emulated joypad, and I could actually just touch.
Yeah.
Every click of
that would make it so much more.
That
that would make it so much better. But
I do While we're on this point as well, I do again just think that the marketing has shifted now to make it very much accessible to like the clarity of the message about how we can get Google Stadia pretty much on any device just like that as well. So I think now that we've seen this move away from mobile data being considered experimental, we're now at a point where they can advertise that point effectively to everyone. The only people who aren't really sort of able to do that are the iOS adopters, but there are workarounds still.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Well, there's things like I imagine if you travel a lot, probably not at the moment, but if traditionally you travel a lot for work, spend a lot of time in hotels, being able to play on your phone would be great.
Yep. Certainly. Yeah. Well, I'm sure we're going to see more experimental updates and changes as time goes on. A kind of sad story next up, gentlemen. Crucible, the title obviously from Amazon's game studios, that came out of early access into open release, and then we laughed about it a couple of weeks ago because it went back into a closed beta. They've just straight up decided to pull the plug on this game, which is a massive surprise. Now, again, I think just before we get into this, I think obviously, thankfully, that I think they've came out and said that nobody's losing their jobs. They're moving their entire team over to the New World game that they're working on. So everyone's still in-house and chipping away, but it's a shame to see a game just disappear, especially one that hasn't really had its chance to shine. And I've seen a lot of stuff on Twitter. I mean, I know posted the tweet up and it got shared a few times about the newsletter the team over at Crucible put out, the developers. And it's something you don't really want to see. I don't think it really has any bearing on Luna or their strategy around that. It's just something that Amazon got into games. They've tried it, but I'll read it out and then we'll go into it. So their statement said, in Essence Hunters, in July we moved Crucible into closed beta. We made a list of features we felt would enhance the player experience, and we shared publicly on our roadmap, and with the exception of custom games we expect to ship in the coming days. We completed them all. With those features shipped, our next step was to evaluate the feedback, and we've heard from you, paired with the data we've collected to determine our path forward. That evaluation led us to a difficult decision. We'll be discontinuing development on Crucible. I'll just end it there. They thank everyone from the support. But Tom, we'll go over to you first. Surprised, and what's your take on Amazon shuttering a game before it's really even had a chance?
Yeah, it's always a surprise to see something that is not even released being shut down. I mean, I know there's a lot of titles out there that you hear the names of and then you don't hear anything out. Shout out to Skull and Bones. What was it called? The pirate ship game. That's Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones. Again, we don't know anything about that. What's happened? Who knows? But again. It's a shame. It did receive a lot of criticism when it came out, and it wasn't very acclaimed. It was too much of a clone of other things, and the ideas were just meshed far too closely together. I think they were trying to do a best of all worlds kind of title, but it did not go in their favor whatsoever. I'm very surprised that they've decided to do this, but again, if something's not well received, then perhaps rather than digging into it and knuckling down and trying to waste resources and loads of things, if you don't believe in it, then don't continue with it.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, right?
It is, because I think back to Sean Murray and Hello Games with No Man's Sky and about how that was received originally, but the amount of love that he's put into that game since there and the team at Hello Games have since. And that's blossomed into something that's incredible now. No Man's Sky is, it's living the dream now. And I do just sort of wonder what if. But it just makes me think if Amazon are willing to do that with Crucible now, they moved everyone up to New World. If New World doesn't work out, if the Lord of the Rings RPG doesn't work out, is this going to become a continued trend? Because this was their first Amazon Game Studio title. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is their first title.
Well, I always found it a bit weird because it kind of was launched with basically no fanfare. We heard about it coming, Amazon are making a game, and then the next I heard about it was getting pulled. It's like, what, really? That came? That's how little fanfare there was around that game. I'm guessing there was people who've tried a lot of criticism. I always found it weird as well. You're working on your own console and you're working on a first-party title. Why not hold back on the first party title until Luna comes out and it probably would have been received completely differently if Crucible was a launch title for Luna.
Yeah, because it would have been looked at under the lens of, well, it's a launch game, it's their first game, but it's on their platform, so everyone trying out Luna would surely jump in and try out their first party exclusive title.
And realistically, you would have had about probably 6 months extra development time before it gets in people's hands. But the one crucial thing I do want to point out that we haven't mentioned is we're offering a full refund for any purchases made. So if you purchase the game, you're not losing out. Yeah, so that is a very classy move from them, and they deserve credit for that.
So this game has literally made zero.
Yeah. I think they've probably made the decision go, look, it's a bit of a mismatch of ideas. Let's strip it down for parts and use that parts into other upcoming games, and that way you don't necessarily lose development costs if you do that. You just kind of move the assets.
I just think it's kind of sad that you've got these concepts of characters that somebody has knowingly and willingly spent time on creating and developing. It is. It's essentially, it's like the soul has been taken away from these potential characters that, like, we all get to know, and sort of in a roundabout way we do bond with these like fictitious characters and stuff like that. They become sort of part of our lives. And yes, okay, maybe they didn't have much time to live, but it's still sort of sad to think about, really. That
someone's been working on these designs for years.
Somebody's poured their love and their creativity into this, and now it's just gone.
Yeah. So my next question then is, because we're gonna be asked it about Stadia all the time, is when will Google send it to the Google graveyard and Stadia will end? So do you think this sets a bad precedence for Luna with their thing? Is this a kind of like, if Amazon are willing to cut this, they could also do the same thing with Luna if it's not great a month, 6, 7, 8 months, years down the line, maybe?
No, I think this has been a pragmatic decision rather than an emotional one. They've probably realised that they launched the game into a very crowded marketplace. It's been probably the weakest offering in that marketplace, and because it's basically a hero shooter, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they're going up against something like an Overwatch.
It's too late to the party.
Yes, it's too late to the party. They'll probably go, well, there's a lot of good concepts that we can just pull and put into something else. I think there will be some dissenting voices out there, but I think they're probably misguided. Like they are, I think, with Stadia. Like, I don't think this is any different. It just looks unfortunate that the first game they tried to publish that is kind of flopped.
Yeah, and I think it would have been the exact same story if Stadia had game studios and this was put out and then it was pulled before Stadia launched. I think it would be the exact same thing. But again, it's great to know that the staff are all being kept on. They're going to be working on New Order. Hopefully they find more success with New Order. But again, they haven't really came out and said if those titles are going to be available on Luna, if they're keeping them like separate entities and these are going to be PC focused and Luna's going to be that, or vice versa. So who knows, but the wheel keeps on spinning, eh, gents?
It tries to.
Yeah.
It tries
to keep on spinning in this crazy world that we live in at the moment.
And speaking of things that are spinning, acquisitions and purchases are next up on our dock, because our lovely friends over at CodeSync, the people who make the upcoming Cake Bash, Fogs, and also the lovely game Get Packed, which we spent many, many hours messing around and having an absolute wild time with, are being acquired by the Thunderful Group. So I know they're quite local too, so congratulations. Always more money being pumped in. You're part of a bigger, wider team now, so whether that's going to ramp up production, studio size, we wait with bated breath, but hopefully good news for all round, and we'll start to see more and more.
Well, a big one in this is the co-founders and several key employees have now got now shareholders in Thunderful. The studio is largely going to be operating still independently of the rest of the Thunderful group. It seems like on paper a very good deal.
Absolutely.
Basically, two indie companies almost merging.
Wonderful. Yeah. You love to see it.
It's Thunderful.
It's Thunderful. I see what you did there. But off the back of Crucible going and acquisitions, we've got some more business news stories dropped this week. Outriders, the game from Square Enix that was announced as coming to Stadia, has also suffered a delay. We probably expected this. I think amongst all the bevy of games that was going to drop in 2020, some were going to be pushed back, and Outriders, the RPG shooter, it's got a small delay. So Stadia was, I will mention, always coming later than the other platform releases. It's one of those games that unfortunately we're going to have to hang fire on. But they have came out and roughly said, so the game was originally set to launch on multiple platforms this December. It's been delayed to February. However, Stadia will come later in 2021.
Okay.
How do we feel about later in 2021?
Again, is it Cyberpunk later? Is it?
I think we've already discussed that this episode, to be honest, at the start.
How much later?
February.
Yeah, it's the same question. Same question, just different title.
Move on. The big thing that's different is
Outriders did at the gate, because I don't think I've seen any gameplay trailer for it. Like,
say that again. You went underwater briefly on my end. It sounded like.
Have we seen any gameplay for Outriders yet? Because I don't think I've seen any.
There are game.
I thought it was the. Oh yeah, they did. Yeah, people went and checked it out.
Yeah. There are cinematic trailers out there, but there is also gameplay footage that you can check out on YouTube as well.
All right.
What would you say it is? It's like Tom, like
it's
Borderlands in a more
Destiny-esque. It's Destiny-esque. Yeah. It's an action shooter. It's an action shooter.
I'm just watching some gameplay now. It's I remember it seems very generic. I remember that being my overwhelming thoughts on it. It's like I really like Square, but this just doesn't seem to stand out at all.
I think
it's not a Final Fantasy 16.
No, it's not.
At the Connect, I think we thought it may have been Mass Effect because of the kind of space vibes they were giving off in the trailer and like the color palette. They did come out though alongside the delay, and they did announce that as a key piece of news for Stadia players in particular, the game is going to be full feature crossplay supported.
Excellent. Let's see if that comes before Destiny 2.
It looks a little bit like Division, to be honest, in a weird kind of way.
That's fair. That's fair again as well.
I mean, don't all games just look the same now?
Yeah, I just saw a bit of where he's just kind of slid into cover and stepped up over it, and like that kind of like tactical.
Yeah, I think once one company gets wind of a successful trope or a successful approach to a video game, it becomes cookie cutter for a while, doesn't it? So everybody jumps on that and has to have their take on it. So.
What if we made the Division into a sci-fi?
Exactly. Yeah, let's take it out of New York and put it into New York.
Oh, now you're thinking. Sad.
Isn't that from Futurama?
Yes, it is.
Well spotted.
Shout out to Futurama.
Wrong type of sci-fi, but very much shout out to Futurama.
Indeed, as well. So I guess we'll just wait with bated breath, and hopefully come next year, we'll have some kind of Stadia roadmap, and they'll be able to come out and say, yes, it's not coming out in line with platforms, but it will be out by autumn, like October 23rd or whatever. So we have something to look forward to. A secret bit of news this week sneaked into our doc from the ESRB. Really, I'm terrible with my words today.
Breasts and ass at the moment.
Breasts and ass. It's all. It's that. That's everything I think of on a Sunday morning, evidently. Wow. I also think of upcoming games, and Cosmic Star Heroine has been rated for Stadia. It's one of these new games league. Now, this is quite another older game. It came out on Switch and PlayStation 4 and PS Vita, of all things. Long live the Vita. And it's coming out on Stadia. And my guess is if it's been rated, that means it's coming. Have you had a chance to check out the trailer or any of the gameplay for this type of
We have. Yeah, Richie and I were actually checking out some footage right before we started recording, and
nice.
It actually looks pretty cool. It's very reminiscent of Chrono Trigger, which was a fantastic, like incredible role-playing game. If you've never heard of Chrono Trigger,
Chrono Trigger
is, check it out.
It's top tier JRPG in terms of like its appeal. Like it's one of them.
What's Chrono Trigger available on? Like where would I play
it was on the Super Nintendo. It was old school.
It's been ported to a couple other things, but I've always heard the port are crap.
Yeah.
Right.
Classic OG was on the SNES, on the Super Nintendo.
Is it on the mini console?
I don't believe it was released on there. So it would have been, was it Squaresoft at that point?
It probably will have been, yeah.
Probably will have been Squaresoft. So they were very protective of the IP back then. There was this whole thing with there was going to be a fan-made remake in 3D on sort of like the GameCube era, previous gen. I can currently say previous gen, as of the time of this recording. And that was shut down. That was Chrono Resurrection, but it's just a tried and true sort of staple JRPG, as Richie said. It's sort of like held the #1 spot for decades. And Cosmic Star Heroine looks very much like it's inspired by that. it's got the same sort of like roaming mechanic, the turn-based combat. It seems very, very inspired by Chrono Trigger. So as an RPG lover, I'm probably going to check it out.
I mean, I'd love Chrono Trigger to just come to Stadia.
No, definitely.
Give it a bit of polish, and then bring it across. Doesn't even need to be a full remake or anything. But yeah, Cosmic Star Heroine. I think it could be ripe for a pro game.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
got that written all over it, doesn't it? But no doubt it'll probably, with it being ESRB rated, it'll probably be announced this Tuesday as a game coming to Stadia. We'll get it next week, and then no doubt in 2 weeks more time it'll be a pro game for November after people have bought it over those 2 weeks.
Hopefully not. Hopefully they just sit on it until it's launched in November as a pro game. But, hopefully they've learned the lesson on that one.
Hopefully, but it looks fun. It looks interesting. But yeah, definitely pro game material. Games that are not pro game material though, you'll be happy to hear that Borderlands 3 is getting the Bloody Harvest DLC returns once again for this Halloween event. We missed out on it last year because the game wasn't actually out on Stadia at that time. We just missed that window by I think a mere couple of weeks. But it's back. Tom, have you played the Bloody Harvest DLC before? You aware what it entails?
No, because when we got it on Stadia, we literally just missed the back end of the event. It's nice to know that Borderlands 3 has gone through a full year cycle now, though, and we're at that point now where things start to kick up. I have to admit, though, I'm not the biggest fan of rehashing events again and again and again, year after year. Like, if you want to sort of develop people's interest in a video game and get them continuously playing it. Overwatch is notorious for this, by the way. Overwatch has the same staple events throughout the year, and then it's like, right, okay, we're back at Halloween. Let's launch Halloween Terror again. And it's the same thing every year, just with some different skins thrown in. And I think they've done the same thing here with Borderlands. But still, we missed out on it first time, so yeah, I'll jump in, I'll collect the stuff I want to, and then I'll switch off the game and leave it till the next event.
Until next Halloween. When the Bloody Harvest returns.
Such is the way of it. I love Borderlands, but I'm not so diehard that it's the only thing I play. Like, there's other things I'd rather play, but I'll still collect the stuff.
I love Borderlands 1, 2, and the pre-sequel. I was really excited for 3, but then it just kind of fizzled out on it quite quickly. I don't think I actually rolled credits. Like, I don't think I finished the game.
I've still not.
No,
yeah.
I didn't either.
I don't know what it was. It just didn't hook me the way the others did.
Yeah, the antagonists and I think even the protagonists, I think they're sort of lost compared to sort of like the high-profile characters of the previous games. They're just sort of they don't stack up to it.
Good thing with it though is we know from the art style of Borderlands that it'll be evergreen in terms of visual fidelity, so we can go back to Borderlands 3 in 10 years and it will still look as good because of the style. So maybe we'll get to it in 2030, Richie, when Cyberpunk's the reality of Cyberpunk's on the horizon. We finally may even have it. So that's it for the news this week. We've had a couple of stories trickle through, both in games, closures, big updates and releases. I want to jump over to our Patreon supporters right now. And remember, you can write into the show as well. You can follow us over on patreon.com/SoundsStadia, where as little as $1 or 89 pence, you can pledge some support to our channel and help us grow and bring you more of the content you like to see, but more so the opportunity to write into the show with questions. And our good friend Lee over on Patreon writes in this week, and he asks if Google carry on their behaviour with the way they market/announce games, or just general bad communication, how long do you see yourself supporting Stadia? So I think this is with probably Luna on the horizon, I think, as well, and next gen PlayStation, Series X, and whatever Nintendo end up doing. I think we've seen quite a lot of people switch over to gaming, cloud gaming in general, whereas we're obviously Sounds of Stadia. So Tom, I'll go over to you first. How long do you see yourself supporting Stadia as we approach this year junction point with the platform?
So for me, Stadia is a platform that for specific titles is predominantly where I play now. Like it's what I boot up. I'm in an environment at the moment where I don't have the best internet connection. I'm not in my own house still. So I don't always get the opportunity to play, but I haven't played on any other device since I've been involved in Stadia. The titles that I play are very much lending themselves to games that I can go back to and play again and again and again. So, like the Elder Scrolls Online, I said at the start of the show, I'm playing tons of it, and I can continue playing tons of it as long as it's on the platform. If they continue to release games that I can do that with, such as like your MMORPGs and stuff like that, then I'm in it as long as the platform's alive, because I just need a place to play, not the place to play. Like, as long as Stadia is there and giving me the games that I want to play, then I'm fine. And at the moment, they are delivering. Yes, we're not getting all the AAAs, but I'm happy chugging along at my own pace, doing my own thing on Stadia at the moment. Like, I'm satisfied. That's all I can say about it.
Wonderful. So are we saying 2077 then, Tom?
Sure, if that's when Cyberpunk finally gets released.
We'll see. How about yourself?
Feels
Richie?
like it.
Where are your support levels at for Stadia at the moment?
Well, I'm quite platform agnostic. I don't really want to plant my flag into a single platform. At the moment, I'm mainly playing on my PlayStation. I know, sinful as a Stadia podcast host. But
not really, you're a gamer.
Yeah, but that's because I'm playing Final Fantasy VII and I want to get the platinum. And that's where I can play it.
Especially with that trophy.
It's that simple for me. It's just like the game I'm currently enjoying playing the most happens to be on PlayStation. And I think it was the same over the summer where I think we had a drop of a handful of games that I was really excited for PlayStation. For cross-platform games, Stadia is my go-to, which is why at the start of the show we talked a lot about how much I want FIFA over on Stadia.
Yeah.
Because I think that will be the place I want to play these sort of games.
I think with Stadia, we've now developed a mentality of, like Chris with Monster Boy, just love hate. Like you love the platform, but you love to hate the things that are wrong with it as well. And it's just
because I so want it to be a success. I can see how it can become a success, and because we're engaging the community as much as we are, because weekly podcast, we're reading every little bit of info. We've probably got a bit too much information for our own good.
Yeah. Sometimes I do worry that we may have like blinkers on, and I always try and take a step back and think like. But the biggest thing for me is since day one, since I got the Founders Edition way back when, is it's just worked. So there's nothing. Yes, it's had its gripes, and there's some issues with like launch days, and the app's functionality is still bare basic as we come up on year 2. And the communication's been really, really bad for the most part. But in terms of the fundamental basics of how Stadia performs, it works for me. And like you guys have said, like for third-party content, I have Borderlands, I have Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I've got Avengers on there, I want FIFA on there. I will always be a gamer through and through before all else. If something is exclusive to my PlayStation, I guarantee you I'm playing the next Uncharted game, I'm playing Spider-Man Miles Morales. There's nothing stopping me from doing that. But in terms of accessibility, Stadia just adds this different element that, like I said, I can play on the go, I can play on my phone. That PlayStation, Xbox with xCloud does it a little bit, but not for the games that I want to be on xCloud for. That's what Stadia comes in. It does a better job, in my opinion, at the moment. And yeah, like you said, Richie, I just want it to do well because I can see it works. And just like Tom, I'm sure as a teacher with your many, many pupils, when you see a kid that's got the potential, the ability, you want to push them on to do well and succeed. Regardless of all the other kids in the class, you still want that individual to do well. And that's how I'd look at Stadia. Yeah, it's got a lot of work to do. Obviously, being a podcast host, Stadia-centric, we will probably be here as long as our adult lives allow us to. And with your continued support, of course. But the foreseeable future is my intention. But that doesn't stop me playing PlayStation, Xbox, PC, Switch.
No.
Or
that's it.
Chess.
We've openly said, like, you've got a PlayStation 5 on pre-order. I haven't yet because I'm waiting for a bit. I've also got quite a bit of money on a credit card, which I bought my new PC on. So that if I had
bills.
Yeah, that's it. I'm holding off on buying a PlayStation 5 largely because it's of adult decision making rather than gamer decision making. But yeah, I'll play Stadia as long as I enjoy playing Stadia. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with the technology, in my opinion. So I don't see that changing.
It would take something drastic. If at this point, all of a sudden, the game crashed every 5 minutes and the frame rate dropped so bad where it was impacting the gameplay, and all the next third-party titles. Like, we weren't getting Assassin's Creed Valhalla, we weren't getting Watchdogs, we weren't getting Cyberpunk eventually. There was no conversation going on with EA and future titles. If we were at that stage now, yes, but we've all got to remember it's still less than a year old. And again, we were all founders, and I think part of being a founder was you kind of can see the vision and the direction Google want to take this.
Yeah, I was always aware that I was buying into the concept of what it will be.
Yeah.
I wish it got to where it is now a little bit quicker, because there's still features that were in that initial GDC drop that aren't here, and we're almost hitting that 1 year mark.
Yeah.
But again, look at the wider scope of what's happening
Yeah.
in the world. You can't always blame it on Google. Yes,
Yeah.
as you've said, shortcomings, yes, it's taken longer. But we still have to be mindful of what's happening out there in the world.
Blame it on the boogie.
Well, there's things happening in the world.
Things.
I don't know.
yet.
I don't get outside. There's no reason
Yeah.
for me to go outside. Everything's closed. Everything's shut down.
It's these four walls were trapped. But thank you for writing in with the question, Lee. As I mentioned, if you've got any questions specifically for me, Tom, or Richie, write into patreon.com/Sounds of Stadia, where your love and support keeps us ticking over. That's it for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Tom and Richie, we've reached the end of our journey for episode 55 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast. Don't forget, if you are a patron, you can check out the post show a whole 5 days before the general public. All of you YouTube people out there can go and check it out as well every Friday when the post show drops, where we'll be heading over and talking about what games we'd love to see on next gen, including Stadia, of course. This has been the Sounds of Stadia podcast, episode number 55. My name's been Chris.
I've been Tom.
I've been Richie.
We've been Sounds of Stadia. Thanks for watching. Have a great week and play some games. Bye.